Hey guys, my name's Matt, I love hockey, and today I'm going to be doing a season preview for the Calgary Flames. I'm going to start off by breaking their team down by position, starting on the left wing, and all these lineups were acquired through rosterresource.com, so they might not be 100% accurate, but we'll cover that as we go. Starting us off on the left side, there's Johnny Gaudreau, who had 80 games played, 24 goals, 60 assists, 82 points, a +2 rating, and 19 minutes and 35 seconds of total on ice time per game. Now let's look at how these numbers stack up to the previous season. He had 18 more games played, 6 additional goals, 17 additional assists for 23 additional points, an increase in his plus-minus of +9, and 56 seconds more of total on ice time per game. Next up, there's Matthew Tkachuk, who had 68 games played, 24 goals, 25 assists for 49 points, a plus-minus of -1, and 17 minutes and 15 seconds of total on ice time per game. This is 8 less games than the previous season, 11 more goals, 10 less assists for 1 additional point, a decrease in his plus-minus of 15, and 2 minutes and 35 seconds of additional total on ice time per game. Sam Bennett had 82 games played, 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points, a plus-minus of -18, and a total on ice time of 14 minutes and 24 seconds. This is 1 more game played than the previous year, 2 less goals, 2 additional assists for the same number of points. He had a decrease in his plus-minus of 2, and 35 less seconds of total on ice time per game. Mark Jankowski had 72 games played, 17 goals, 8 assists for 25 points. He had a plus-minus of -7, and a total on ice time of 13 minutes and 21 seconds per game. So overall, the left wing is really good, mostly due to Johnny Hockey. Any side that has Johnny Gaudreau on it is going to be a really solid group. And if you go based off of who the NHL's website has listed as left wingers, he was actually the 4th highest points getter of any left wing in the league. Now, the interesting thing about the Flames this year is that no position is stacked, but no position is really lacking. It is a pretty big fall from Gaudreau to Tkachuk, but Bennett and Jankowski look like they could be good, and they have some prospects that I've seen listed on this side, Andrew Mangiapane, but we'll talk more about him later. For now, let's go ahead and move to center. Starting us off on center, there's Monahan, who had 74 games played, 31 goals, 33 assists for 64 points, a +3 rating, and a total on ice time of 18 minutes and 41 seconds per game. This is 8 less games played than the previous year, but 4 more goals, 2 additional assists for 6 more points, an increase in his plus-minus of 4, an additional 1 minute and 6 seconds of total on ice time per game. Michael Backlund had 82 games played, 14 goals, 31 assists, 45 points, a -21 rating, and 19 minutes and 1 second of total on ice time per game. This is 1 more game played than the previous season, 8 less goals, the same number of assists for 8 less points, and a decrease in his plus-minus of 30, but an increase in his total on ice time of 1 minute and 25 seconds per game. Derek Ryan had 80 games played, 15 goals, 23 assists, 38 points, a -15 rating, and 15 minutes and 36 seconds of total on ice time per game. This is 13 more games played than the previous season, 4 more goals, 5 more assists for 9 additional points, a decrease in his plus-minus of 7, and 43 additional seconds of total on ice time per game. Austin Czarnik had 10 games played, 0 goals, 4 assists, 4 points, a -1 rating, and 10 minutes and 55 seconds of total on ice time per game. This is 39 fewer games played than the previous season, 5 less goals, 4 fewer assists for 9 less points. He had an increase in his plus-minus of 9, and a decrease of 1 minute and 6 seconds of total on ice time per game. Now for their centers as a group. Monahan's good, but I think he can put up better numbers than this. He was 26th in the league, according to the NHL's website, in points by somebody who's listed as a center. But I honestly think that he can put up better numbers than that, and now that they have a potentially solid right wing and James Neal to solidify that top line, I think his numbers will go up this year. Austin Czarnik is interesting. He had the 3rd most points of any player in the AHL last season. He played 64 games, had 25 goals, 44 assists, and 69 points. So he's definitely somebody to look out for, and he might actually get a higher position than this 4th line center job. But let's go ahead and move right along to the right wing. James Neal had 71 games played, 25 goals, 19 assists for 44 points, a -11 plus-minus rating, and 17 minutes and 11 seconds of total on ice time per game. This is 1 more game played than the previous season, 2 additional goals, 1 additional assist for 3 additional points, a decrease in his plus-minus of 1, and 31 less seconds of total on ice time per game. Elias Lindholm played 81 games, had 16 goals, 28 assists for 44 points, a plus-minus of -8, and a total on ice time of 17 minutes and 54 seconds per game. This is 9 more games played than the previous season, 5 additional goals, 6 less assists for 1 less point, a decrease in his plus-minus of 6, and 17 fewer seconds of total on ice time per game. Michael Frolik had 70 games played, 10 goals, 15 assists, 25 points, a -19, and a total on ice time of 16 minutes and 55 seconds per game. This is 12 less games played than the previous season, 7 fewer goals, 12 less assists, 19 less points, a decrease in his plus-minus of 32, and 10 less seconds of total on ice time per game. Garnet Hathaway had 59 games played, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points, a plus-minus of 3, and he had 11 minutes and 32 seconds of total on ice time per game. This is 33 more games played than the previous season, 3 additional goals, 5 more assists for 8 more points, an increase of his plus-minus of 3, and 2 minutes and 24 seconds more of total on-ice time per game. Now this side is the area that they improved the most in the offseason. James Neal and Elias Lindholm are good additions. If Neal plays on this top line, I think he can have a great year, somewhere in the 60-point range, and in the early to mid-30s in goals. They traded Dougie Hamilton and Michael Furland for Elias Lindholm. He is a better player than Furland, and Neal brings a lot of experience and leadership. You can never really have enough of that in the locker room. As for Hamilton, we'll cover that when we get into the defensemen here in just a second. But overall, this right side has a lot more scoring potential than it did last season. At least I feel like they've really improved, and I think this additional scoring depth is going to do wonders for their offense, which, when you look at the numbers, was really lacking last year. Now it's time to talk about the defensemen. Mark Giordano had 82 games played, 13 goals, 25 assists, 38 points, a plus-minus of 0, and total on-ice time of 24 minutes and 47 seconds per game. This is 1 more game played than the previous season, 1 additional goal, 2 less assists for 1 less point, a decrease in his plus-minus of 22, and 1 minute and 12 seconds more of total on-ice time per game. Noah Hanifin had 79 games played, 10 goals, 22 assists for 32 points, a minus 20, and 18 minutes and 52 seconds of total on-ice time per game. This is 2 less games than he played in the previous season, 6 more goals, 3 less assists for 3 additional points, a decrease in his plus-minus of 1, and an additional 57 seconds of total on-ice time per game. Brett Kulak had 71 games played, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points, a minus 3 plus-minus rating, and 12 minutes and 59 seconds of total on-ice time per game. This is 50 more games played than the previous season, 2 additional goals, 3 additional assists for 5 additional points. He had the same plus-minus rating as the previous season, but he had a decrease of 1 minute and 16 seconds in total on-ice time per game. TJ Brody had 73 games played, 4 goals, 28 assists, 32 points, and a plus-minus of minus 16, and his total on-ice time per game was 23 minutes and 41 seconds per game. This is 9 fewer games than the previous season, 2 less goals, 2 less assists for 4 fewer points. He had the same plus-minus as the previous season, and 6 additional seconds of total on-ice time per game. Travis Hamonic had 74 games played, 1 goal, 10 assists, 11 points, a minus 9 plus-minus rating, and a total on-ice time of 20 minutes and 42 seconds per game. This is 25 more games played than the previous season, 2 less goals, 1 less assist for 3 less points, an increase of 12 on his plus-minus rating, and 15 additional seconds of total on-ice time per game. Michael Stone played 82 games, had 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points, a minus 11, and a total on-ice time of 16 minutes and 45 seconds. This is 18 more games played than the previous season, the same number of goals, 5 fewer assists for 5 less points, a decrease of 6 points on his plus-minus rating, and 3 minutes and 3 seconds less of total on-ice time per game. Overall, on defense, Brody will have a better year than last year, I think. They have a good defensive prospect that I'll cover later, which they could add to add some scoring depth to this team, which is something they do need on defense, especially since they lost Hamilton's goals. He had 17 goals and was actually tied for the most goals in the league by a defenseman. Noah Hanifin was a good addition, but he has some large shoes to fill. I do think he'll put up better points than last year when he played with Carolina, because the Flames are a stronger team. Moving right along to the goaltending. Mike Smith had 25 wins, 22 losses, 6 overtime losses, a goals against average of 2.65, and a save percentage of .916. This is 6 more wins than last year, 4 less losses, 4 fewer overtime losses, a decrease in his goals against average of 0.27, and an increase in his save percentage of .002. David Riddick had 8 wins, 6 losses, 3 overtime losses, a goals against average of 2.92, and a save percentage of .904. Now, there's not really much to say on their goaltending front. Mike Smith just needs to stay healthy. Now let's look at their prospects. Starting off with Andrew Mangiapane, who had 10 games played, 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, a minus 3 plus-minus, and 8 minutes and 56 seconds of total on-ice time per game. Rasmus Anderson had 10 games played, 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, a minus 1 plus-minus rating, and a total on-ice time of 15 minutes and 26 seconds per game. Spencer Fu had 4 games played, 2 goals, 0 assists, 2 points, a +1 rating, and a total on-ice time of 15 minutes and 51 seconds. Curtis Lazar had 65 games played, 2 goals, 10 assists, 12 points, a -8 in plus-minus rating, and a total on-ice time of 9 minutes and 51 seconds last year. This is 28 more games played than the previous year, 1 additional goal, 7 more assists for 8 additional points, the same plus-minus, and 30 additional seconds of total on-ice time per game. Now this is where the Flames actually start to look really interesting. Anderson was ranked 8th amongst defensemen in the AHL last year in points. He played 56 games, had 9 goals, 30 assists for 39 points. but he played 7 less games than anyone that was ranked higher than him. Andrew Mangiapane had the second highest points per game average of any player that played more than 20 games in the NHL last season. He played 39 games, had 17 goals, 38 assists for 55 points. Now, neither of these players had a point in their time in the NHL last year, but it was only 10 games, and hopefully this year they've gotten enough experience that they can make that jump. Now, Spencer Fu didn't have an amazing season in the AHL, but he did put up 2 goals in 4 games with Calgary last year. So all 3 of these prospects look great, but we'll talk more in depth about how they can help the team at the end of the video. For now, let's move along to their signings and re-signings in the offseason. Noah Hanifin signed a 6-year contract for $4.95 million a year. Garnet Hathaway signed a 1-year contract for $850,000 a year. David Riddick signed a 1-year contract for $800,000 a year. Brett Kuliak had a 1-year $900,000 contract awarded to him in salary arbitration. Mark Jankowski signed a 2-year contract for $1.675 million a year. Elias Lindholm signed a 6-year contract for $4.85 million a year. James Neal signed a 5-year contract for $5.75 million a year. Austin Czarnik signed a 2-year contract for $1.25 million a year. And Derek Ryan signed a 3-year contract for $3.125 million a year. As far as cap space goes, this leaves them with $2,588,290, which realistically isn't that much. Now let's go ahead and look at what's still up in the air. These are questions I like to ask at the end of every single one of my season previews, where I look at things that I think will determine whether or not they'll have a great season this year or a team will have a bad season this year. The first thing I want to look at is their prospects. So Calgary has a great group of prospects like we just saw that could really help this team fill out their lineup and fill holes in their roster. When you look at their numbers last season, they really needed to score more this year. They were 27th in the league last year in goals per game with 2.6 goals per game, and they're 28th on the power play with a pretty abysmal 16%. I think all these prospects have great offensive potential and can really help add scoring depth to this lineup, along with some potential upgrades to defense and Anderson. Now let's look at their losses versus their additions. They lost Hamilton, who will be missed, but they added Noah Hanifin, Neal, and Lindholm, and if all of them play better on this team than they did in their previous teams, they can make up for the loss of his offensive capabilities. And I think that they can. Hanifin and Lindholm both played with Carolina last year, who is not a very good team. And Neal had a decent amount of ice time, but he was playing on a second line. Playing on a first line, playing first line minutes with Johnny Gaudreau is really going to boost his stats. Goaltending. Mike Smith just needs to stay healthy in this coming season. He is getting older. And I do think that Riddick could hold the fort for a while if it's just a small injury, but if he gets a serious injury, the Flames are going to have a really hard time getting into the playoffs this year. I think Mike Smith's health is going to play a huge part in how well this team does and if they can make it into the playoffs. Finally, good becoming great. There are 3 types of teams in the NHL in my mind. There's elite teams, not good teams, and alright teams. Those teams are not bad, but they aren't good. They're never amazing, but they're not terribly awful. They might make it to the playoffs every once in a while, but they don't do much once they get there. And that's very much been the story of the Calgary Flames for at least the last 3 seasons. They've only gone to the playoffs twice in the last 9 years, being eliminated in the first round once and the second round once. But I think that this group looks solid. They look really good, and I have no doubt that they can make the playoffs. The question is, can they do anything when they get there? With that said, guys, that wraps up my season preview for your Calgary Flames. Overall, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think that they're going to finish 3rd in their division. That's a lot higher than a lot of people have them, but I really do like the looks of this team. I think that they're really solid. I think they're going to finish either 4th or 3rd, and I do think that they'll make the playoffs. Let me know where you think they'll finish. Also, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you do like this video, make sure to check out my other season previews I have on my channel. I'm going to be doing one for every team leading into the regular season. I want to thank all my subscribers for being patient with me and sticking with me until this video was uploaded. Basically, my computer was completely out of commission for about 3 or 4 days, right as I finished my Calgary Flames video on that PC, and something happened, and basically the hard drive was gouged into, the disk was broken in my hard drive, so lost that completely, but I'm just happy that people stuck around while I got this video made, so thank you guys so much for that. This is Less Than 3 Hockey, and thank you so much for watching.